In my opinion, there are 9 significant signs that your ex will exhibit if they don't care about you. And today, I'd like to take you through each one of those one by one. So the first sign is pretty obvious. I want you to pay attention to where they're investing their time. So one of the things that I'm really big about on ex-boyfriend recovery is I talk about this idea of the 6 pillars of commitment: satisfaction, alternatives, investment, urgency, scarcity, fear of loss. Essentially, if you can create these 6 factors with your ex or with any person you're hoping to be in a relationship with, you're more likely to create an environment where they are willing to commit. But if you were to look at those 6 components and try to identify which of them is more important than the others, investment certainly stands out. When psychologists would look at people who were in incredibly unhappy circumstances with their partner but wouldn't leave, they would try to understand, well, why is this person staying in this incredibly unsatisfying relationship? And the answer was they've invested too much time, money, and energy into it. When you've invested things into it, you have a natural inclination to not want your time to be wasted. And so that brings us back to looking at the signs that your ex doesn't really care about you. If they're constantly investing time into other people when you're talking to them and they're not giving you too much of their invested time, it's not a particularly good sign. Sign number 2 is that they're going to dismiss or minimize your emotions or fears. So let's pretend you're on the cusp of getting your ex back. Everything seems to be going incredibly well, and then they do something that triggers your anxiety, and you act as any anxious person would. But their response to your fears coming to the forefront isn't necessarily to reassure you or try to make you feel better, it's to gaslight you. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, don't worry, I'll include you in that get together later. In fact, research constantly shows that gaslighting can affect someone in the following ways. It will cause you to doubt your own memory and perception. You'll feel confused and disoriented. You'll lose self-confidence and self-esteem. You'll increase in anxiety and be more likely to have depression. You're gonna feel like you're going crazy. You'll have difficulty making decisions. You'll feel isolated from your friends and family, and you'll become more emotionally dependent on the person who gaslights you. It's this vicious cycle where they gaslight you, you try to get more reassurance, they gaslight you more, and you can't get out of it. Generally speaking, if you're in this situation, I'm telling you, the person you're trying to get back with does not care about your feelings. Sign number 3 is that they disrespect you by hitting on other people in front of you. It's not always going to be so cut and dry. You know, they're not going to just usually hit on the person in front of you, but sometimes there's little subtle comments that they can make. Let's say you're out at a get-together with your ex. You're not back together yet, but things seem to be going incredibly well. And then someone else walks into the room, and that person captures your ex's attention. Your ex kind of goes over to them, they start talking to them. They don't outright hit on them in a very direct way. It's very indirect. They laugh a little too hard at their jokes. They put their arm around the new person lightly, maybe for a moment, and then kind of put it back. They might make some suggestive comments as jokes. Generally speaking, if your ex is disrespecting you to this extent, it's not a good sign. It usually means they're not really taking your feelings into account. Sign number 4 is they'll completely ignore you for days at a time, and then when they need something, they come back into the picture. So essentially, this is the hot and cold type of a person. You know, they're giving you these mixed signals. Very similar to what we kind of experience with fearful avoidance. You know, a fearful avoidant will often have this anxious side that gets triggered, and then they'll have this avoidant side that gets triggered, and they kind of move back and forth. But this is a more specific version of that. This is when they're getting triggered in a way that they know they need you to help them with. So either it's a work problem, or it could be something as simple as something horrible went wrong in their own dating life, and they know that you will give them the emotional support that they need before they can kind of get back on the horse out there. The thing I always try to tell people who are kind individuals who are dealing with these jerks, I mean, let's face it, is to acknowledge their problems. Don't be a jerk back to them, but don't fix their problems. Sign number 5 are all conversations tend to be dominated by them. Whenever I'm interviewing someone, I'm always trying to maintain a 50-50 split. But sometimes I know I've talked too much, but I've talked 60 to 70% of the time. That is kind of like what we're talking about here. If you're having a conversation with your ex and the conversation is dominated by them and their problems, and it's not a perfect 50-50 split, it's not even a 60-40 split, it's not even a 70-30 split, but it's an 80-20 or 90-10 split, this is indicative of someone who only cares about themselves and doesn't care about you. Sign number 6, they're only sweet to you when they want to become intimate. This one sucks, but unfortunately we do see it happen a lot, especially in the breakup industry where, you've already become intimate with this person. They are only nice to you when they want that certain something. So the big question people have for me when they're experiencing this sign isn't so much of, oh, he doesn't care about my feelings. He doesn't. He cares about his own feelings. I think that is obvious here. But it's how do I determine that's what's happening to me? And for that, we kind of come back to the age-old actions versus words theory. What you're looking for is to look and see if their actions and their words align. If their actions and their words do align, that usually means that they're being truthful. If they don't align, that usually means that they're being a little deceptive. And usually their actions will tell you where their intentions truly are. Sign number 7 is that they don't have time for intimacy anymore. So let's actually fast forward the clock. Let's say you use our program, you get your ex back, everything's kind of great. Just one thing is a problem. Whenever you try to escalate things and sleep with your ex, or now your new boyfriend, they want nothing to do with you. So essentially this is the opposite end of the spectrum of what we just covered, where the ex is only after intimacy. This is the ex that doesn't want any intimacy at all. And it is a problem we see with our clients who get back with their exes. So why would they do this? So I think one reason is that he's bothered due to past experiences or unresolved emotional issues. It may be because he's feeling overwhelmed or stressed in other areas of his life, such as work, family, which affects his ability to connect with you intimately. Everyone's allowed to have bad days. What we're looking for here is a consistent amount of these bad days. They don't want to touch you. They don't want to be anywhere near you. They typically hold a grudge, usually not a great sign. Sign number 8 is they exhibit narcissistic traits. By definition, a narcissist is someone who lacks empathy. Therefore, they will not care about your feelings. They care about themselves. So let's start with the traits of the narcissist. Narcissists think they're really important. They daydream a lot about being successful and better than everyone else. They believe they're unique and deserve admiration from others. They act entitled as if they deserve special treatment. They're not afraid to take advantage of others to get what they want. They don't really care about other people's feelings. That's interesting. They get jealous of others who have things they want, and they're arrogant and think they're always right. They're also super focused on other people to make themselves look good. They're always wanting to prove that they're better than everyone else. They don't understand or care about other people's feelings. They have a hard time forming genuine, honest relationships with others. They struggle to maintain close relationships because they don't connect with people meaningfully. But just because an ex exhibits these traits does not necessarily make them a narcissist. No, a narcissist is a special breed. In fact, I've written a really great article about this on the website where I quote, say, simply having a few characteristics would mean solely that the subject has narcissistic traits. Still, if your ex personifies 5 or more of these traits, he could be clinically classified as having narcissistic personality disorder. So basically, if your ex is a narcissist, then no, he's not going to care about your feelings. And sign number 9 is that your ex invalidates your experiences. So if this sounds familiar, you're overreacting. It's not a big deal, get over it. No, that's not how it happened. Well, many people have suffered way more than you have. Essentially, if you're sharing an experience, hoping to gain some type of empathy from your ex, and they respond with any of those following responses, usually that means they're invalidating your experience. They're not even listening to what you have to say. Usually it's an arrogant type of a person that does this. So if your partner is constantly telling you that you're overreacting or that you blowing it way out of proportion, then usually not a good sign.